You have killed rosemary before, possibly more than once. You bought a healthy plant, brought it home, set it in a sunny spot, watered it carefully and consistently, and watched it turn brown from the inside out over the course of about 2 months while you stood there, genuinely baffled about what you did wrong. Here is what the nursery did not tell you. Almost everything instinctive about how to care for a plant will kill rosemary. The attentiveness kills it, the watering schedule kills it, the rich potting mix kills it, and the protective instinct to bring it inside before winter, the thing that feels most like good gardening, kills it in a way that outdoor cold never would. Rosemary does not die because you are neglectful. It dies because you are too careful. And those are two completely different problems with two completely different solutions. Here are the 2 things I want you to hold on to right now. Secret number 4 is the counterintuitive one, the one that runs directly opposite to what almost every gardening source will tell you, and the one that saves more established rosemary plants than anything else on this list. And secret number 5 is the reason most rosemary sold at American nurseries is already wrong for your garden before you ever get it home. I am going to tell you exactly how to walk into a nursery and never make that mistake again. This channel exists to give you exactly this kind of information. The real reasons plants fail, not the polite version on the back of a nursery tag. If you are not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week this channel publishes the specific plant information most gardening sources get wrong. Subscribe so it finds you directly. Before we get into secret 1, tell me in the comments how many rosemary plants you have lost. 1, 3, more than you want to admit out loud? Drop the number and your zone. Because a gardener 2 comments below yours just lost their 3rd plant to the same thing you did, and your honesty might be the thing that finally saves their 4th one. Let's go. Secret number 1. Stop trying to keep it comfortable. Here is the mindset shift that changes everything. Rosemary is not a culinary herb that needs nurturing. It is a woody Mediterranean shrub that has survived for millions of years in some of the most hostile growing conditions on Earth. It developed an entire biology specifically designed to thrive under stress. When you remove that stress, rich soil, consistent water, shelter from the elements, you do not get a healthier plant. You get a weaker one, a plant with no reason to develop the deep roots, the dense wood, and the concentrated aromatic oils that make rosemary both resilient and worth cooking with. The rosemary you buy from the grocery store tastes like a pale, vague suggestion of the herb. The rosemary you grow in genuinely lean, dry, sun-hammered conditions tastes like something altogether different. The essential oils that give rosemary its intensity, the compounds that make it worth growing, concentrate in direct response to stress. A comfortable rosemary is a flavorless, short-lived rosemary. Find the worst spot in your yard, the one with the thinnest soil, the most brutal sun, the least shelter from wind, the longest dry stretches between rain. If you have a south-facing slope with rocky soil where nothing else will establish, you have just found the best rosemary bed in your garden. If everything you have tried in that spot has failed, rosemary will consider it ideal. The plant does not need your help, it needs your restraint. Secret number 2. The drainage you are imagining is not extreme enough. Every article you have ever read says well-drained soil. What none of them tell you is that their version of well-drained and Rosemary's version of well-drained are not the same thing, not even close. Here is what genuine rosemary drainage actually looks like. Water poured onto the soil surface should be completely absorbed and moving away from the root zone within seconds. Not minutes, seconds. If you water a bed and see any pooling at all, even briefly, the drainage is insufficient. In its native habitat, rosemary grows in fractured limestone with a thin layer of organic material sitting on top. Rain falls, passes through almost immediately, and is gone. The roots never sit in standing water for any meaningful duration. To replicate this, remove at least half the native soil from your planting area and replace it with coarse horticultural grit or crushed gravel. Not playground sand, not beach sand. Coarse builder's grit or pea gravel, the kind that feels sharp and chunky rather than fine and powdery. Mix this thoroughly into the remaining native soil until the texture is visibly gritty throughout the entire planting zone. Then plant on a mound. Raise the planting surface 2 to 4 inches above the surrounding soil grade and set the plant on top of that rise. 2 to 4 inches sounds modest. Standing beside a plant you have built it for, it looks almost aggressive. That is exactly right. Water moves away from the crown rather than toward it. The crown, the point where the stems emerge from the root system, is the most vulnerable part of a rosemary plant. It rots before the roots do. It rots in conditions that would not trouble most other plants at all. The mound keeps it in the dry, elevated position it requires. For containers, terracotta only. Never plastic, never glazed ceramic. Terracotta breathes and actively wicks excess moisture out through the pot wall. Mix 1 part coarse grit into every 2 parts of potting medium before planting. Remove the saucer entirely or commit to emptying it within 10 minutes of every watering. A rosemary plant sitting above standing water in a saucer has a countdown timer running. The symptoms appear in 3 to 6 weeks. The damage is happening right now. Secret number 3. Your watering schedule is the cause of death, not the prevention of it. This is the one. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Rosemary does not need a watering schedule. After the first 2 weeks of establishment, it needs watering twice, possibly 3 times, in its entire first growing season. And after that, it largely needs to be left alone. I know that sounds like neglect. It is not neglect. It is the accurate translation of what this plant actually requires. Here is what happens when you water on a schedule. The roots, which are adapted to pursue moisture through dry soil over long distances, have no reason to grow deep. They stay near the surface where the regular watering keeps conditions hospitable. A rosemary plant with a shallow root system is vulnerable to every heat event, every dry stretch, every cold snap, and every wet winter in a way that a deep-rooted plant simply is not. You are producing a dependent plant rather than a resilient one. And dependent rosemary dies. After the first 2 weeks, push your finger 2 inches into the soil beside the plant. If you feel any moisture at all, walk away. Come back in a week and check again. You are waiting for the soil to be completely, unambiguously dry at that depth. Once the plant is past its 2nd year, you are probably watering it a handful of times per season at most. Maybe not at all if you get normal rainfall. That is not a typo. In winter, you do not water rosemary. None. Not if it looks wilted. Not if the soil feels dry. Not if it has been 3 weeks without rain. Wet roots in cold soil is the primary cause of rosemary death in established plants. Most of the plants gardeners believe died from cold actually drowned during mild winter spells when well-meaning watering kept the soil saturated. The plant looked stressed. The gardener reached for the hose. The plant died. Let it go dry. Let it look slightly stressed. It is not suffering. It is building the root architecture that will keep it alive for 15 years. Of the first 3 secrets, which one describes exactly what you have been doing wrong? Drop it in the comments with your zone, because somewhere in this comment section a gardener is reading your answer right now and about to make a completely different decision because of it. 5 scripts into this channel, and we have never once told you to just water more and hope for the best. That is what we do here every week. The real information behind why plants fail. If you are not subscribed yet, this is the moment. Subscribe now so the next one lands directly in your feed. Secret number 4. Bringing it inside for winter is usually the thing that kills it. This is the counterintuitive one. The one I told you to wait for. This applies specifically to gardeners in zones 6 and 7 who have been faithfully carrying their rosemary inside every November and watching it die by January anyway. Genuinely confused about why the plant they tried so hard to protect did not make it through the winter indoors. Here is what is actually happening. When you bring rosemary inside, you remove 3 things the plant uses to survive cold: genuine air circulation, the dormancy triggers it needs, and the dry conditions its root system is calibrated to. You replace them with 3 things that kill it: stagnant indoor air that creates the perfect environment for powdery mildew, the warmth of a heated house that prevents the dormancy the plant requires, and the humidity of indoor environments combined with the almost unavoidable temptation to water because the soil looks dry under artificial light. The result is a plant that develops powdery mildew within weeks, never properly rests, and arrives at spring in worse condition than if you had left it outside in temperatures 10 degrees colder. The correct approach for zones 6 and 7, and this is the part that feels wrong the first time you try it, is to leave hardy varieties in the ground. Plant them in well-drained soil, in a location with some protection from the harshest winter wind, and then leave them alone. A thick layer of coarse gravel mulch over the root zone, not organic mulch, which holds moisture, provides thermal insulation without trapping the wetness that kills crowns in winter. A burlap windbreak on the north and west sides of the plant blocks the desiccating winds that do more damage than the cold temperature itself. The rosemary plants that survive marginal winters are not the ones brought inside. They are the ones planted correctly in the first place and left to develop the hardiness that only genuine exposure to real conditions builds. If you are in Zone 5 or colder, container growing with true indoor overwintering is appropriate. But move the container to the coldest, brightest, driest indoor location you have. An unheated garage with a south-facing window is often better than a warm living room. Water once every 3 to 4 weeks at most, through the dormant period. The goal is not to keep the plant comfortable. The goal is to keep it just barely alive until spring gives it a reason to grow again. Of the first 4 secrets, which one genuinely surprised you? The one you had absolutely no idea about before today? Drop it in the comments with your zone. Secret number 5. The variety you bought is probably wrong for where you live. This is the failure that makes every previous secret irrelevant if you get it wrong. And it is the cause of death most gardeners never identify, because the plant dies in winter and they blame the winter rather than the variety. Rosemary sold at garden centers across America is not reliably sorted by cold hardiness. A plant genuinely hardy to Zone 6 and a plant that will die in its first Zone 7 winter can sit in identical pots with identical labels 3 inches apart on the same nursery bench. The staff cannot tell them apart by looking. Neither can you. The only reliable information is the variety name, and most rosemary sold in America is sold without one. Here is how to think about it before you ever walk through the nursery door. In most American garden centers, the majority of unlabeled rosemary is a tender variety, hardy to Zone 8 at best. Not all of it, but enough that buying without a variety name in Zone 6 is a genuine gamble. These are Zone 9 and 10 plants that have been distributed nationally because they look good at the point of sale. If you have killed rosemary repeatedly and you live in Zones 5, 6, or 7, this is almost certainly what happened. The plant was never capable of surviving your winter regardless of how well you grew it. The hardy varieties are a different plant entirely. ARP is the benchmark, reliably hardy to Zone 6 and documented to survive Zone 5 winters in well-drained soil with wind protection. It has a slightly more open, upright habit than tender varieties and a slightly more camphor-forward fragrance, but it survives. Madeline Hill, also sold as Hill Hardy, is hardy to Zone 6 with a reputation for Zone 5 survival in favorable microclimates. Salem is another hardy selection with good cold tolerance and a more traditional rosemary fragrance profile than ARP. In Zones 5 through 7, these 3 names are the ones you are looking for. Prostrate varieties, Irene and Huntington Carpet are the 2 most widely available, are trailing forms that cascade beautifully over walls and container edges. Not cold hardy, Zone 8 at best, but their low-growth habit makes them practical for container overwintering in cold climates and genuinely spectacular in warm ones. Walk into the nursery knowing your zone and the variety name you need before you select a plant. If the nursery cannot tell you the variety name, do not buy the plant. A rosemary of unknown variety in Zone 6 is a plant you are buying to lose. You have already lost enough of them. Stop buying the mystery plant. Here is the whole thing pulled together, the short version. Stop trying to help it. The spot you think is too harsh? That is the right spot. The watering schedule you have been following? Throw it out. The plant you have been carrying inside every November to protect? It was probably safer outside. And the plant you keep buying from the nursery without a label? That is the one that was never going to survive your winter regardless of anything you did. Give it your worst spot. Build drainage that feels excessive and plant on a mound. Water only when the soil is bone dry 2 inches down and you have had no rain for 3 weeks. In winter, leave it alone completely. Leave hardy varieties in the ground in Zones 6 and 7 rather than carrying them into a warm room that will kill them more gently but just as certainly. And buy only named varieties documented to survive where you actually live. ARP, Madeline Hill, Salem. Those are the names. Everything else in Zone 6 and below is a Zone 9 plant wearing a Zone 6 price tag. Here is what I want you to picture. 2 summers from now you walk outside on a July morning and the rosemary you planted this season is standing full and silver green in the heat. Dense and woody at the base, fragrant from 8 feet away, so completely indifferent to the drought the rest of your garden is struggling through that you have genuinely forgotten to worry about it. That plant is not lucky. It is not in a special microclimate. It is just a plant that finally received the conditions it was built for. Stressed into strength rather than coddled into fragility. That morning is closer than you think. These 5 secrets are the whole distance between where you are now and there. One question before you go. Which of these 5 secrets is the one that explains every rosemary plant you have ever lost? Tell me which one, and tell me your zone. Because the gardener reading your answer this weekend is standing at a nursery about to make the same decision you made. What you write might be the thing that changes what they put in their cart. If this video gave you the real information behind every rosemary failure you have ever had, that is exactly what this channel produces every single week. Honest, specific, no filler. Subscribe so the next video finds you directly. One more thing before you go. Next week on this channel, 5 herbs that thrive in every zone and every condition where rosemary struggles. Too cold, too humid, too shady. If your garden fights rosemary no matter what you do, that video is going to show you exactly what to grow instead. And at least 2 of those herbs are going to surprise you. It goes live this week. If you are not subscribed, it will not find you. Hit that button now so it lands directly in your feed the moment it publishes. I will see you next week.